Hello, my name is Ash, a counselor in training. This is my Relatable study podcast for individuals who need help studying for their NCE, CPCE, and other related counseling exams. I'm going to go through many questions from multiple resources and make the answers relatable to both you and me. So get your listening ears on and let's get studying. What are some examples of culture-bound values versus class-bound values in counseling? A. Culture-bound values include strict adherence to time schedule and an unstructured approach. B. Class-bound values include verbal expressions of defined patterns of communication and openness. C. Culture-bound values include individual-centered counseling, emotional expression, and intimacy. D. Class-bound values include a structured approach to problems and seeking short-term solutions. The answer is C. Culture-bound values include individual-centered counseling, emotional expression, and intimacy. In this way, we can be culturally sensitive and are able to provide an inclusive, personalized approach that will respect the diverse individual, their identity, their lived experiences, and their values. For example, if I am working with a Native American, I want to make sure that I am respecting their culture, learn how their culture defines them and their own identity through their lived experiences and their own values. And I will work on an individual approach to make sure that their issues and problems are being resolved while still being very inclusive to their culture. A counselor is working with a family who just lost everything in the fire. The counselor will ideally focus on A. Maslow's higher order needs such as self-actualization. B. Building accurate empathy of family members. C. Maslow's lower order needs such as psychological and safety needs. D. Identify the patient. The answer is C. Maslow's order needs such as psychological and safety needs, the counselor will ideally focus on with a family who just lost everything in a fire. One of the clients at my internship actually lost everything in the fire, and they were able to inform their family of the fire, and they practically lost everything, including their beloved animals, while the school was focusing on providing clothing, shoes, extra food. What me and my supervisor did, we made sure that this individual was meeting their psychological and safety needs before we moved on to any other issues that the client has been experiencing to make sure that their low order needs were met. Which of the following statements is true when considering cultural and familial influences on self-esteem? A. Chinese and Japanese children have higher self-esteem than North American children, mainly because their cultures have higher academic standards for achievement. B. Boys tend to have lower self-esteem than girls. C. African American children tend to have lower self-esteem than Caucasian children. D. An authoritative parenting style usually allows children to have especially high self-esteem. The answer is D. An authoritative parenting style usually allows children to have especially high self-esteem, typically because authoritative parenting is usually warm parents who set reasonable demands on their children, which increases their self-esteem. There are cultural differences when it comes to parenting styles, but typically they are roughly the same. If you know anything different about authoritarian or other parenting styles, leave a comment down below and let's have a discussion. The anal-retentive personality is A. Charitable, B. Stingy, C. Kind, D. Thinks very little about money matters. The answer is B. The anal-retentive personality is stingy. They are also stubborn and have a compulsive need for order and neatness. This is because they might be considered a perfectionist. They oftentimes have a fixation on being obsessively precise, orderly, and neat, which makes them stingy. This stinginess is often regarded as a maintenance of anal retentive because the individual has a strong collective instinct to save face. When counseling a client who is self-identified as a lesbian and whom the counselor believes is marginalized, which of the following should be the first step? A. Outline the ways in which the client may be marginalized. B. Determine if the client feels marginalized. C. Guide the client to becoming more aware of being marginalized. D. Explore how marginalization has affected the client's life. The answer is B. Determine if the client feels marginalized. This is typically because the counselor does not want to assume or believe that the client is anything before they are told, because assuming often has a negative effect on individuals, especially individuals in the LGBTQIA+ community. So asking the client if they feel marginalized or something similar to that wording can help the counselor identify if this is an issue the client would like to work on, or if they say no, then the work will lead elsewhere. I cannot speak on lesbians' behalf, but as an ASPEC individual myself, I could speak on our behalf. There are points in which we feel marginalized because of how sex heavy the world is, and we do not feel like there is a place for us within the LGBTQ community because we are generally not interested in sex. And on a personal level, I may feel marginalized, but that is an issue I can work out through with my therapist. That would be an example of marginalization on the ASPEC side of things. But if you are a lesbian and you are a counselor, leave your comments down below because I am generally curious about what you would have to say on this topic. And that is all 5 questions. Thank you for listening. Keep calm and study on.